This is 11 Personnel, presented by our good friends at Monticello Bank. I'm Nick Roush, joined by Adam Luckett, where Kentucky football, it's kicking off. It's happening this week. Not the actual games, but the practices. We talking about practice? Luckett, pads will officially pop within this 7 days, and I couldn't be more excited for it. It is a little weird, though, because doesn't it feel like we never really hit a dead time in the sports calendar?
We had an interesting off-season / summer here at KentuckySportsRadio.com. We almost got 2 coaching searches. We got one, but we got an OC search. Then you get the baseball team unexpectedly has a crazy good one of the best. I mean, the best season in program history probably. Wins the SEC, goes to Omaha, and then all the basketball stuff that comes with a coaching change, and all the new. And then you get this TBT team, like it's the favorite to win this thing, and so that's filling up our timeline now. And so the little old sport called football is just here, ready to get going. And while all of this was going on, we've had kind of a different offseason, I think, for the Kentucky football program. Not really sure what to expect.
Right.
They're starting to come out of come out of where they've been. Like Mark Stoops called it his cave over at the football facility,
Which is, I think, appropriate.
Yeah. So, I mean, we'll have to see. But we talked about this. They've decided to lay low.
Yeah.
This offseason for one reason or another, and now they're starting to come out of it. And you'll have a fan day, but even that, Nick, they don't really They didn't. Hey, we're having fan day next weekend. It wasn't like a thing where you promoted it all.
It was a Friday news dump. Came out on Friday afternoon at 4 p.m. when everybody's laptops shut for the day. Which, by the way, got my keyboard fixed. 10 new keys. I've been smashing this keyboard to bits. Getting ready for football season. We had to get a tune-up, make sure it's ready. Still have a couple of keys that I didn't realize were broken. So we might need one more cleanup before the football season actually starts.
I had that issue on my last keyboard before I spilled a large cup of Dunkin's coffee on that. That was probably around February. That was pre-Arkansas, Cal the Hogs.
Oh, man. How funny was that Joe Tipton edits of Cal with the Hogs and Darius Acuff, I guess is his name?
Yeah, I was surprised it's had Arkansas on it at all. I figured it would just be Calipari U. I didn't. I thought they were having new jerseys down there. It was just going to be they were just going to borrow the La Familia jerseys and paint them red or something.
Let's cold takes ourselves for the podcast listeners. Final score of tonight's game. What you got?
I think it's going to be close. I would say what's the line? 4.5.
Yeah.
Let's say La Familia wins. Let's 72-68. I think it'll be close, so might not cover.
I kind of predicted that on the radio, but low key, I think they might whoop their ass. Louisville isn't very good. I've watched their TBT games. They're not. Kentucky is the more talented team. It's just, will the 15,000 people give them a shot in the arm, or will they do the classic Pitino and put this game on a pedestal and just get emotionally wrecked by it?
Yes, you're right, but this is also it's glorified pickup basketball.
It's true.
So you never know. In a game,
Russ Smith might have that moment where he hits 3 threes in a row, and then he goes down and fouls Eric Bledsoe 5 times. They don't call it. He just hand checks a bunch of steals away. I can see it. So
from that aspect, I wouldn't I think you're a madman if you're gambling on these games. You are an absolute madman.
But at the same time, you're also a madman if you don't make friendly wagers with your friends who are Louisville fans, because it's summer basketball. Let's have a little fun with it. Why not? So I'm hoping we get to see a W tonight. This has been a nice stopgap. The Olympics, I'm one of those where I'm not the biggest Olympics guy, and then they start, and I just get drunk on Olympics for 10 days, and then by the time it's nearing the end, I'm like, all right, I've become too drunk, I'm too hammered. Cut me off, bartender. I've been watching too much Olympics because I was I was all in on watching the Olympics over the weekend. So having Rowdy Gaines just like screaming, it's kind of like having John Fanta doing TBT games, right? Like, am I as fired up for this as they are? No, but they are making me more excited because they're so excited. So I've been enjoying the summer of sports we've had.
I mean, who doesn't want to beat Shane Bohannon one more time? I mean, who doesn't want to make Russ Smith's all-time record against Kentucky 1-6?
Oh,
I mean,
Shane with the C.
Yeah, who doesn't want to do that?
Oh man, it would be a real delight. Montrezl Harrell, he's gonna have a few moments out there on the court. It just, I'm fired up for it. So we're not gonna spend too much time. I know y'all are all fired up, but hopefully this helps you get through to the finish line to make it to the TBT game that's supposed to tip off around 9 p.m. tonight. Before we move on, though, quick thoughts. Elam ending. Do you want to see it in some college basketball, real basketball games? 0, all of them? Where do you stand on the Elam ending, Luckett? You're a numbers guy. Do you like the way that this plays out?
I do, but I'm a little indifferent on that because you're that's a big change for the game. I really do think it would help college basketball. Because it gets the fouls out at the end, which is like you could make the argument. I think that's not real basketball. Like that's not how the game is intended to be played. But also, I get why you wouldn't want to do that. And so, I mean, it would be a big kind of change. I think once people got used to it, it would be pretty cool, and it would make games, I think, move faster. Like I probably wouldn't be getting mad at ESPN for not staggering tip times on January 27th. But that's I get why you would maybe be hesitant. I would rather them just go to quarters. Like that's the big change I want to see college basketball. Go to 10-minute quarters and reset the bonus, and let's play basketball like every other basketball organization in the world plays basketball in quarters. So I would like to see them do that before doing Elam ending.
The thing that I like about the Elam ending is instead of slowing the game down, it speeds up. You get, I mean, it can be, you can see some frenetic, crazy energy on the court.
It rewards scoring. It rewards foot on the gas. So like the Cal, slow down, stop. With 8 minutes left, you wouldn't do that in an Elam ending.
No, because it's pointless.
Because you're trying to build a biggest lead as possible for when that Elam ending arrives. Then it's easier for you to go, or it's less stress free. It's like playing golf. You want the stress free pars. Yeah. You don't want a tough par putt. So you want a birdie, but if you can't make a birdie putt, you want to have a stress free par. And if you play a round full of those and you get a lot of those, then you probably you have a good score on the card. And so like I think the Elam ending is kind of like that.
That's where I think a nice compromise would be to just do it during the feast week, the early MTEs, right? Your Battle for Atlantis, your Maui. Like, do it early in the year as just like a fun way to get some eyeballs on the sport in November. And I think that would be a nice little middle ground because, you don't want to really get rid of the buzzer beater from March Madness or the conference tournaments. But I would like to see it there. And I'm happy, though, to see Monticello Bank as presenting sponsors of 11 Personnel. They're sticking by us for another season because they're the best. That's where people matter. They've been in business for 128 years. It's a long, long time. They can only do that because they're putting people first. Monticello Bank, it's where people matter. They're conveniently located in 14 counties across the Commonwealth with 21 branches. You can also visit them online at nbcbank.com, whether you're shopping rates for a mortgage or an auto loan, or maybe you want to do a little business, whatever it might be. Monticello Bank has you covered. Monticello Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender, proud presenting sponsor of 11 Personnel. We're happy to talk a little ball, and we're happy that William Deerfield has been tuned in for us. He said he loved seeing y'all cover SEC Media Days. He's excited for the season. We appreciate you following along, William, and contributing over on the KSR YouTube channel. We really appreciate your support. And we just want to let everybody know, too, that tunes in regularly. We don't have a concrete schedule set down because we still haven't, it's still preseason for us. But our goal moving forward is just every Monday from here until they stop playing football in January, we're going to be there's going to be some sort of football show on the KSR Football YouTube channel. So if you're subscribed, you'll get a notification when we go live. We're still figuring out what we'll do Mondays on press conferences, whether it's at night or if it's, a happy hour situation or not. But we're working through it. But just playing on Mondays for the foreseeable future. The offseason got a little hinky. Offseason's over, baby. Full steam ahead.
Yeah, and I think 3 shows. You're going to get 3 shows here on YouTube, also in your podcast feed. I think the plan is 2 like traditional podcasts, and then we'll have the pick show, some form of the pick show. I've also been asked, are we going to do a win total show? Yes, that will arrive some point in mid-August.
Probably right after I have this kid. That feels like a great first show back.
I would say either the week of the week 0 game or the week before that. So expect that mid-August, and so that is on the way as well. And so typically, like we did last year, 3 shows per week here on the YouTube channel. 2 podcasts, and then we'll have the pick show there on that'll drop on. I think we dropped it Thursday last year.
Yeah, Friday. Yeah, I think we'd roll it out Thursday.
I think we did Thursday because we wanted it in time to pick Thursday or Friday games.
Yeah. Oh, because come on, we're playing the Thursday night games, of course, which we don't need to get into it now. But the Thursday night college football slate this year is kind of weak. I'm a little disappointed in the schedule.
Yes, but the Friday slate is
nice. That's bull crap though. I like the Fridays and they're fine, but that's usually I try to get my high school games in earlier before college really kicks up. So come on, throw us another bone with Thursday. But you know what? We'll end up getting one of those random games. Will end up being fun. You can always expect that, just like you can accept somebody like Moonshine to show up. What's up, Nick? Go Vols! Damn Vol fans. We can't get rid of them, but we appreciate you all tuning in here on the KSR YouTube channel. Res Non-Verba, he chimes in quite a bit, and he's teeing us up for the first topic we got tonight about football before we get into the actual preseason talk. Stoops retiring after this year? The Daryl Byrne interview makes me think it's very possible. And Luckett, that was that was something, wasn't it? That was something else.
Well, we're hitting this at the 12-minute mark, and I would have, if you would have gave me 12, I would have bet under. So good job by us for putting this off for this long. But yeah, that was it was another NIL kind of long rant. We've seen Mark Stoops go on and another big one in less than a calendar year. And again, Nick, it was another one that got picked up by national media. People in the college football space were talking about this because a lot with the timing. There's nothing else going on.
Yeah.
But again, he's basically saying I'm not saying what he was saying, but it came off as Kentucky's got a rinky-dink NIL organization.
Would you like me to read some of the verbatim quotes like it? I feel like we should probably do that. That would be the best thing. Because to preface this, the context I think is important, is that this interview was done at the SEC spring meetings with Daryl Byrne. I don't know why Daryl sat on it for more than a month. He did his Mitch thing.
They have the Cat's Paws yearbook, I heard today.
Mm-hmm.
And he gets to sit down. Cat's Paws gets to sit down with Stoops.
Oh, so this was a different time than spring meetings.
He doesn't release it until, I guess,
the yearbook
when that magazine comes out. Yeah.
Because that is the thing is Stoops has not been shy about the NIL stuff, and privately he's been very candid about the challenges of this job, but usually that's kind of how he describes he describes them as challenges. He said that fundraising is weighing on me, but in this conversation with Daryl Byrne, he just lets it all out. I have 100 free agents every 6 months. You don't think there's pressure of raising money to keep them and pay them what they deserve to help them? I've done this for 2 or 3 years completely alone. I get no help, none. I feel very isolated, very alone. And I'll be honest, I don't know how much longer I could take dealing with what I've dealt with. Myself personally, I can only do so much. I've never felt this kind of stress and pressure. I mean, he said he couldn't do this without Eddie Grand. And the one that really popped at me was he just said, I can't coach the way I want to coach because all I do is raise money or try to raise money. I have to meet somebody for a drink or meet somebody for the meeting or dinner or something to raise money 3/4 of my life. It's just reality. You go through the frustration, the panic. How do I raise it? I feel very isolated on how to do it. But if I don't raise it, it doesn't get done. Like
He's a campaign manager.
It's just, there's part of me that wants to part of me wants to do what some of the fans have done and just be like, you're making $9 million. The job has changed. You got to change with it, dude. This is it.
Right.
But then there's another side of it too. And it's like, well, maybe Cal wasn't just being whiny when he was talking about Mitch not playing ball and helping him out with NIL, right? Like, it sounds like to me he wants more than just Eddie Grand helping organize all of this. And right now, I know that the way that Mitch Barnhart is operating as they're transitioning into this new era, they are squeezing every nickel and dime out of this budget. That's what Mitch does well. But he's doing everything he can to maintain all the sports, retain everybody.
Keep jobs.
Yeah. So he wants to keep jobs, but all the while, Mark Stoops is like, if we want to be successful in this new era, you can't just have one guy doing all the NIL because revenue sharing isn't taking away this NIL stuff, this NIL piece of the puzzle. Somebody's got to get it done. And I don't know if I can still do this anymore. So, like, there's part of me that wants to kind of be mad at Stoops, but I'm kind of mad at Mitch. And then all the while, it makes me wonder, back to the original question by Res Non Verba, is how much longer does Stoops want to deal with this? Because it's just another sign that he's kind of getting fed up with the job requirements.
I think all three things are true. Like, I think it's a long time to have one job, 12 years, 2 disappointing seasons in a row, Nick. He's coming off, I think, last year, I think the football program didn't necessarily love all the criticism they were getting for some things, mainly like how the pony up stuff just got taken, just got caught fire, and like I think they were really taken aback by that.
Right.
They were surprised, kind of the blowback they got from that.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think they necessarily, and even like after beating Louisville, and now part of that is the coach goes and Mark Stoops goes and interviews for A&M. Even after that, how they lost the Clemson game, there was a heavy criticism there. I think there's just been a lot of criticism. I think even the recruiting stuff, there's a lot of, go to our board.
Yeah. And we can get to that in a little bit. But yeah, even when they're doing well, it's still not good enough.
There's a lot of criticism, even though the results, like they're about to sign probably 2 of their 3 best classes in back-to-back classes here when all of this is going on, right?
Yeah,
when all this NIL stuff is going on. So I think for Stoops, I think you can definitely see it's wearing thin on him, and you can see, I think, some of the fatigue, overall, just like fatigue and rut of being in the same job for as long as he's been in, and the job's changed a lot, and I think you can see some of that. I think there's probably some frustration there that probably an opportunity hasn't presented himself for him. That's just me kind of reading in between the lines a little bit. When you look at the A&M opportunity that came, and he said they aggressively pursued him, but I think that was probably
a little bit of both.
Two-way street. I also think, Mitch Barnhart has not necessarily been Johnny NIL in regards to this new era. He's not been as aggressive as some of his peers in the conference about getting this thing wrapped up, or getting this thing ramped up, excuse me. Nebraska's new AD, like in his introductory press conference, Nick was pretty much like, you have to donate to NIL or we're not going to be any good. So, and that you haven't really seen Mitch do that at all. And really
Yeah. You mentioned the new AD, and I don't want to get you too off topic, but there is if you look at the big AD hires lately, Ross Bjork going to Ohio State, Trev Alberts, like that's the domino effect to get to Nebraska. Trev Alberts moving to A&M. It's all young guys that are
fundraising driven. Yeah.
Exactly. They aren't old admins like Mitch. That's like it's a different world. It's all based on raising that dollar.
So I think there's some frustration with that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Matt has gone over this extensively in the last 2 years on his radio show about what's going on. And I think there's some fatigue with that. You know, and I see some people saying, well, I don't care. His staff, he's got all this money for his support staff, but it's like two different things. Like the NIL stuff has to come from the university. It can't just be part of the football program.
He can't use his job to pay other people. Now, like, I think that's something you could negotiate. Like, what would...
Well, I think like, in hindsight, if he would have knew it would have gotten this big after the 2021 season, that would have been part of the... That would have been on the negotiation table.
He would have added 3 staffers. They didn't know it was coming. Yeah, exactly.
They didn't know it was coming. And then 3 months after that is when like collectives really started to pop.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there is some fatigue there. I think, you know, we know the stuff with Cal. That's been well documented with the relationship with Mitch Barnhart. Now, I think Stoops, that relationship is obviously healthier, but I think there is some fatigue there. Now, Stoops had his luncheon today, went out of his way in his opening comments to thank the administration and say that, you know, they have alignment, yada, yada, yada. We've heard the spiel every time or 100 times, but I think there's probably some fatigue there. So I think that is true. And I think the third thing, Nick, like we all know that Mark Stoops is probably not going to coach 25 years here. That he was probably going to eventually hang it up. He's 57 years old. He's probably getting close to that imagine finish line. I think he has some things that he probably wants to accomplish. Like, Nick, I looked this up the other day. There's only been like 12 or 13 SEC coaches to win 100 total games as an SEC head coach. Like, I mean, you're talking like, you know, Pat Dye didn't do it at Auburn. Like, he was 99. So you're talking like, you know, Saban's obviously won. I think
Dooley.
I think Fulmer was up there. Dooley is one. I mean, you're talking about like the best coaches in every program's history are all kind of on that. Spurrier's on there with Florida. They're all kind of on that. Like Stoops could. That's like, you know, I don't know if he thinks about that, but I looked it up and I was like, well, damn, you know, that would be kind of crazy. You know, a hell of an honor if you could get to that. And he's like 3 win seasons away from it. He's not super far away from that. So is that something he would be interested in? I do think there is, you know, putting Kentucky in a good shape or space in this playoff era. It's probably something he will want to do. But I also think, you know, he doesn't seem like a guy who would would not like retirement life, I guess I should say. Like he would find some stuff to do. Yeah. I don't think that would be. He's already got other business interest right now. Everyone knows the bourbon company. I mean, the SEC Media Days has become his biggest infomercial for RD1 Spirits. And so I think all of those 3 things are true, and I think they kind of added up to where he is today. And it'd almost be better, Nick. He's getting quoted saying these. I would say it'd be better if you heard him, but you heard him for the pony up thing, and that didn't go well. So I don't know. I just think everyone's just there's a lot of frustration. I think with just where the program is, and I think most of it is due to these last 2 seasons.
You're kind of talking me through it, and I got the hamster wheels in my head turning. But I think some of it is clear that the frustrations that we have as fans, they aren't falling on deaf ears. I think Stoops is equally as frustrated, and that's probably why he kept his mouth shut, is because he knew he was going to say something that would draw some more firestorm. And really, the best thing that can happen for this program is to get to the ball. Because if you look at this, just like take all of the other stuff out, right? Like you look at just what people, you and I, did for our jobs for like 20 years, which is just like, how are they recruiting? What's the roster look like for the fall? Like you look at it and you say, all right, well, they might have 10 guys at the combine a year from now. They're recruiting top 25 classes. They've got a defensive coordinator that's been here. Is this White's 6th season? I mean, like,
yeah, I think it's his 7th season overall, and I think it's his 6th.
6 is DC. Like Vince Marrow's been here for 12 years. Like there's a lot of signs that like, oh my gosh, this thing is heading in the right direction. But everything else is taking up a lot of oxygen this offseason. So the best thing moving forward is to have the actual games take place. And, I think Mary, she makes a point that I don't know 75% of the players on the team. UK needs to push them like the basketball does. We know nothing about the new players. I mean, Mary, that's also there's the team's a lot bigger. Like that's part of it. They haven't played yet. The freshmen just got on campus a month ago. We haven't got to talk to a lot of them yet. So like that's part of just how these sports operate. It's a little different. But we're about to talk to a lot of guys over the next month. You're about to see the players at practice at Fan Day on Saturday at 11 a.m. Like this is where the stuff like really ramps up. But if you're interested, we've got plenty of stories out there on a lot of guys.
Well, and I think part of Mary's point is they're not necessarily going out of their way to hype up the team or to talk about the team, but they did the last 2 years, I think, Nick.
And it bit them in the ass.
QB driven, right?
QB and wide receiver, yeah.
And it did not go well. And so I think they're taking a different approach this offseason, which gets back to kind of our opening statement here. They're just, they're being quiet. And I think they're like laying low. I think that's calculated. I think that's measured and it's for a reason. And then we'll see what happens because nothing really matters. I mean, it's a results-based business, wins and losses. Mm-hmm. And they know that. So what's it? I think that's kind of how they're looking at it. Like they're very hesitant to say anything like big about Brock Vandagriff, right?
Yeah. Right.
Like the biggest hype we're getting from him is really from like people
Georgia
that knew him at Georgia or as a recruit.
It's weird.
So, I mean, we'll see what comes out. I mean, I do like that, how we heard about he's not a slider from Malachi Starks in SC Media Days.
Yeah.
And then we heard today, Bush Hamden was like, it means something to him, and he's an old school quarterback. To me, that sounds like a guy who's going to absolutely put his body on the line every Saturday, every game day. And I think that's something that's going to resonate not only with the teams, but I think it'll resonate with the fan base. And you get a good quarterback, it solves a lot of problems in a lot of ways. And I think this program could use like him becoming a star would be like the best medicine, I think, for this program overall, and to get everybody really pulling in the same direction right now. But then I say all that, Nick, they've sold over 40,000 season tickets again. Yeah. People are going to be in the stands. So like you hear them complaining and I see, well, the roster's pretty good. Like I know the case, like the big point people are trying to make is the best roster of Stoops era. I think you can make that point, but that doesn't mean the best roster doesn't mean the best teams.
Yeah.
Best roster in college football doesn't win the national championship a lot of times. It's the best kind of team. I'm not willing to say it's going to be one of the best teams of Stoops era yet, but it's definitely looks like one of the better rosters he's had. So can they make that the best team? And that's something we'll have to wait and see. But you see the roster they've built. I think Bush Hamden, Nick, at least with what they're letting out, it seems like I think they just see eye to eye and kind of how they want football to be played and how they want to operate.
Which is not the case last year with quarterback and play caller. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is a much better relationship. Yeah.
Even with like head
coach Bush and coordinator.
Bush is just, he's been in college. He understands college. He understands the SEC. Not to say Cohen didn't, but Bush's ultimate goal is to be a college football head coach. Mm-hmm. He wants to be a college football head coach, where I think Liam's ultimate goal was to be an NFL head coach.
Yeah.
And so maybe there was, there's situations where Liam was going to do, like they were going to run an NFL offense. Like you hire him for that, and you can't really expect him not to do that. And I think where Bush Hamden, it's more like they're going to run more of a college offense. And I think it's just going to stylistically maybe be a better fit for at least this 1 year. I think with Liam's offense, it was really, really good that first year because they had NFL players. They had NFL quarterback, NFL receiver,
NFL running back.
Two guys I think are on NFL rosters. So
that helps.
But I mean, with that said, Cohen was. I mean, he's a good. He's a good play caller. He's calling plays for the Bucs for a reason. But I think just how they like taking advantage of like huddle operation, no huddle spread sets. Like, do not let these defenses play 9-man boxes. Get them out of the box and run the quarterback. I think that's a big thing. Why did Kentucky's rushing game probably struggle? Two of these, and now Cohen wasn't here for one of them, but the last 2 years it struggled. They had no, what part was the line? The line needs to be better, but there was zero QB run threat at all.
Yep.
And if you don't run the QB, it's going to be hard to be one of the better rushing offenses in college football. That's a big part of this game.
It certainly is. It certainly is, Mr. Luckett. I wanted to add one thing before we moved on, because I did want to, I don't want to say hammer the point home, but the genesis of Stoops's kind of complaints and this mentality, this attitude, I wasn't surprised to see the comments. I was just surprised that he actually made them publicly, because that sentiment is certainly one that's been shared privately this offseason. Sure. And I that was kind of like what I would say when people are like, were you surprised Cal left? And it's like, well, I'm surprised he actually went through with it. I could see why and all of this, but that's how I feel about this Stoops situation, where that had been festering. And there was a moment like it when he talked about NIL and this fundraising and all that, and he at SEC Media Days, and he gave me a look like, damn, he gave me a look where he was trying to hammer it, but he was muzzling himself with everything in his soul. And so he let it out to Darryl Bird. And
it's like when you see that little Debbie snack cake at 11 p.m. in the pantry. You're just going in there to get a bottle of water, and you see it, and you just have to do everything you can not to eat that before bed. And
he let it out, and I get this. Some of the people who are just sick of it, and they're like, I don't want to hear it all from Stoops and blah blah blah. Quit whining. But I do appreciate that. He only has so little restraint. But what it means for the future of Kentucky football, Lord, I don't know. It could be 1 year, it could be 4. I mean, the way this roster's set up, it's set up to have a good year, and then there's going to be a lot of turnover. But hell, if Brock's a superstar, you might want to stick. You might not want to leave if that guy's coming back around, especially when Butch Hamden's contractually pretty much on the hook for 2 years. So there's
that'd be something. The one OC he gets that's willing to stay for a couple of years is when he decides to.
Yeah,
make it a one and done relationship.
And really, what to get to this, the final conclusion on all of this, is going to be an eventful season.
One way or the other. Yeah.
There's going to be I as far as predicting and trying to you can't nothing would surprise me with this Kentucky football team. I think they got a pretty high floor though, because of just the base is pretty solid. But would you be shocked if things spiral? Anything is up for grabs going into the 2024 Kentucky football season, and it's all kicking off Wednesday, right? They're getting to the practice field on Wednesday, and they're setting the table starting then, and then it's go from here on out.
Yeah, one thing I would say about the floor is, yes, from a product play level standpoint, it's the same, but the record at floor I think is lower just because the schedule is tougher.
Right. You're going to have a quality team that's 6-6.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, you could play at a top 30 level, go 5-7 if you were bad in close games.
Yeah. Turnovers, stuff like that. Yeah.
That could play out this year. And I think you're right. I think Brock Vandegrift could determine a lot of it. And I think I go back to is if he was willing to go to A&M, he at least probably thought 5 more years, bare minimum. But is that the same mindset here at Kentucky? I don't know. It's kind of hard to tell. I think I think this season is going to have a lot to do with it. Honestly, Nick, I feel like we're going to get in November and kind of have a feel for it. We'll probably know when they play Tennessee what direction it's heading in.
I mean, yes, but then you could have a clunker thrown in there that changes everything, a la the South Carolina game. So that's the part of all of this that is so unpredictable.
I look at the schedule though. Yes, but the schedule in November, it's Tennessee, it's Murray State, it's at Texas, and it's Louisville. It's not they're not, 2 of those games they're not supposed to win, and the other one they never play bad against Louisville ever since he's been here. That's never been a case.
Yeah.
Typically, I mean, even the game they played bad, they were ready to fight Lamar Jackson with a trash can. So like they are mentally ready for that game every year.
Right, yeah.
So I don't think that's going to be the case. So like that's why I think really the schedule is different because it's kind of front loaded. All the big games are early, and the swing games are like in September and October.
Well, we got to get some more good points. Agatha, she made a great point on the chat. I appreciate her chiming in, contributing. If you want to contribute, we appreciate all your comments and all your contributions here on the KSR YouTube channel. She's looking forward to the Over Under annual podcast. She also brought up, too, that Gavin Wimsatt, how much are we going to get of him? It helps having Gavin Wimsatt when you have a quarterback who doesn't like to slide. Having an athlete like Gavin who can run the football. I still haven't figured out, Luckett. Can you get a sense from Bush talking that he actually is going to go through with some of this Wildcat stuff with him? Or is that like really just we're going to play nice until and only break glass in case of emergency?
I think he's legitimate.
Okay.
I think they are dead set, Nick, on running the football this year. Like hell or high water, we are going to run the football well, one way or the other. And if it takes, 2 QB formation, I think that's definitely going to be a package. I think it's definitely going to be a short yardage thing. I definitely think he's going to be in a plan. And Bush Hamden, when he was at Missouri for 3 games, he ran the hell out of Brady Cook. At Washington and at Boise State, like he was not scared to play his backup quarterback.
He pulled
Jake Browning in a game like in November when the offense was just in a really bad spot.
When you said he pulled Jake Browning, I thought you meant he pulled a Jake Browning and like brought in the backup who had a hot girlfriend and the guy won a game. But I was a little confused there. But I digress.
Yeah. And then like Taylon Green had an injury, but I also think he was available to come back and they didn't. They let this backup come back, and I think they were happy with the backup, but then the backup got hurt, so they had to put Green back in. Like it was a whole kind of, I think, deal there at Boise State.
Snap, yeah.
But now I think he's not going to be afraid to play a backup quarterback, and on top of that, they are committed to running the football, and they're going to find ways to run the football, and they're going to run the quarterback this year, and playing Wimsatt would get some carries off of Brock, specifically in, some short yardage type stuff. And if you pull up Wimsatt's numbers, non-sack rushing, he had a really good season at Rutgers. Ran for 11 touchdowns. Had like 500, I think he had like about 550 yards if you take sacks out. And so he was an effective runner in the second best conference in college football, with a lot of good defenses he was going against. So I think that's going to be a package for him this year. I'm buying that. If we did a
buy or sell,
I would buy. Yeah.
Well, I want to get to a different segment. It's a recruiting segment, and it's presented by our good friend Andy Ludicky from myperfectfranchise.net. We spoke with Andy recently, and he's not kidding. If you're thinking about getting out of the corporate America rut, there's a lot of options out there for you. I personally typically only think of franchises as like you're a fast food franchisee. No, like whether it's youth sports or you're in the like the personal health business. I mean, there's 3 people who have who have hooked up with Andy Ludicky at My Perfect Franchise from the On3 network who are making $1 million a year in sales in their franchise. It's pretty crazy what they've been able to accomplish. There's also the kind of home remodel businesses. The home improvement industry is booming right now, whether it's fencing, baths, home. Andy, he will set you in the right direction. Just give him a call at 404-973-9901 or email him at andy@myperfectfranchise.net. You'll talk with him. He'll kind of see what your interests are and then match you with franchising opportunities to help set your career off. Take off, fly away, kind of like the Cats are this fall, hopefully. It's Andy Ludicky, andy@myperfectfranchise.net, myperfectfranchise.net. Look, we're here to talk a little recruiting because this weekend, it was Big Cat weekend at Auburn. It was Last Bash at Penn State. It was the barbecue. It used to be 502 barbecue. What was the Ohio State one? I don't know. Like, I hate all that stuff so much. And part of it is just the corniness of it all. Like, it just bugs me. It's like, just call it what it is. It's junior day too. But so it kind of irks me. It's very gimmicky in my mind. And some of it is just from a personal standpoint. I've moved on. Like, I'm ready to go to football. We hit the pavement hard with recruiting in June. So, like, mentally, I'm not ready for another recruiting weekend to jump through all those hoops. So I haven't.
You don't like Alpha Dog weekend at NC State? You don't like Brian Kelly's Bayou Splash at LSU?
Like, I mean, it's so stupid. All of those things are so dumb. I mean,
you don't like Billy Napier's Florida Grill in the Ville?
So it sounds very stupid out loud. Now, I mean, is some of it funny when you see UTEP like riding in with the low riders to their stadium? Like, of course, and it's hilarious. And you do the what a sport stuff. And I also see the value in, all right, let's take one last swing at it, at getting underclassmen on campus before you kind of get too busy for this stuff. But here's the thing, Luckett, they're eliminating this weekend for a reason. It's because the coaches hate it. The high school coaches hate it. Yeah. These players are at practice right now. Like, they're taking time out of practice to do it. I hate it for so many reasons, but I understand why there is a segment of fans on KS Board, which if you're not, UK1, promo code gets you $1 2 months. But like so I understand why they're saying, hey, all these other guys are doing it. Why are we falling behind here? And I think you had the rational. I have just like the kind of old man take. I'm issuing the coach's grievance to it that all of them kind of have about this. This weekend wasn't a weekend until Kirby started doing it, and then they all said, oh, gosh, we've got to do this now. So they're getting rid of it. It was the last one. But you made the point that is the rational point and the reason why Kentucky doesn't have Big Blue Cat Weekend Extravaganza Grill Off.
Yeah, I think like this is a big weekend for a lot of people because Auburn, this is just an official visit. It's like an unofficial official visit weekend. Like, they go all out and they have a bunch of guys there, and it's a big deal. So some schools really go all out, and I think because of that, these other schools have had to match them to keep up. Auburn's like, they've been doing Big Cat Weekend for like 15 years now. It's always at the end of July, and it's kind of an unofficial official visit for them. But you're right, a lot of them just use this as kind of a head start on junior day. But I think you used to see Kentucky do all this stuff. In some schools, they have a camp this weekend. Like South Carolina has a camp to go along with this, which I guarantee like the high school coaches have to hate that. Like,
oh, yeah.
Why are you going to a camp? Like, we're having practice.
To do one-on-ones, right. Exactly. Yeah.
And so a lot of schools, I think West Virginia does a camp that this weekend. A lot of schools like tag it with a camp to try to get visitors. And we've seen Kentucky in the past really get into that and try to bus kids up here. Like, there was when they made the push into South Florida, they were bringing a lot of kids in for camps, and they were having camp workouts and all of this. And I don't know if they did this at the time, but if this was 5-6 years ago, how the recruiting calendar is set up, they would have done some type of event here. But I think for them, they've decided, whether right or wrong, like to operate on a smaller scale and try to create more one-on-one time with targets. And so they're not going to participate in these big, I think, extravaganzas like this weekend. It's why, like, even their OV weekends, Nick, they're never like more than 8 guys.
Yeah.
A lot of them are 5 to 6. Where you look at some other schools, they'll have weekends where they're bringing 12, 13, 14 players in there. Where I think they try to make it more of a one-on-one, like build up a personal relationship with these kids, and they really try to sell that relationship, and that that target is super important to the staff and really means a lot. And I think for the most part, that's it's working for them the last 2 years, 2-3 years. And also, I think their NIL situation is not in bad shape, or they wouldn't have the roster they have right now. And so I think that just works for them. Even this weekend, they had guys on campus. They had 225 guys. Jaden Clark and Mikael Skinner, both guys they could end up signing. So it wasn't like they were just all out at the golf course. Like, Eric Wolford and Vince Morrow were two guys working.
Yeah, and the other point you made too is like there's also a finite amount of resources that you have to go around, and what's your rate of return if you're going to have some of these extravaganza weekends, right? How many more guys do you need to sign in this class? Wouldn't it make sense just to get a 4-star tight end and Jaden Clark on campus, right? Like that makes sense to me. And I would also understand a little bit more of the frustration if the recruiting results are different. Maybe there's some anxiety that Andrew Purcell was at Big Cat Weekend, but Auburn also got a commitment from a cornerback this weekend. So, I don't think that's one less spot, right? So, I appreciate all of the folks who are very passionate about football recruiting. It's just sometimes for me, I don't have the energy to have anxiety over a potential missed opportunity. When you know what, Kentucky, they flipped a Cincinnati commit last year, right? And it wouldn't shock me if they were able to do it again. This kid's from South Carolina, but if they end up getting a 4-star tight end out of this weekend, what's the difference between doing that and having a low profile versus look at us with Big Blue Bonanza 2025? Come get the Big Blue balls. Big Blue, baby, Big Blue. Woohoo, yippity-doo.
I don't think talent acquisition has been a problem for them.
Yeah.
For the last couple of years. I think their roster building process is in good shape. I think they're doing a good job building out the roster and balancing the roster. But I do think when there's not much promotion going on with the program, when you have kind of a weird spring game.
Yeah, it leaves them open to criticism.
And then when you see peers that you're competing against, both on the field and on the recruiting trail, have these events, I can see why people that come off as a little bit of laziness to some people. I can see why people think that. Now, I think there's reasons for that, for why they're not doing it. And I think when you kind of take a step back and kind of really kind of look at the whole picture, I think it's understandable why they're probably not doing that or operating that way, especially when you realize they are having people on campus this weekend. It's not like they're not doing anything, but I think again, it opens up to them to some criticism when the head coach tried to go to A&M essentially, or, has that dalliance with A&M. And then, you kind of have this weird off season, and some of it too, Nick, there's, like we mentioned, a lot has gone on this off season, other sports on campus, not named the football team.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's caught a lot of attention, and it's allowed them to, I think, get more under the radar in some ways. And so now we're here, and it's like, well, where's the football team then? Oh, they're having a big recruiting event this weekend, all these schools. Well, why isn't Kentucky doing it? So I get it from that aspect.
Well, they're getting back on the radar because, like we said, the first helmets only practice is Wednesday. They'll have another one Thursday before the shoulder pads come on Friday. UK Football Media Day is on Friday. The following day is Fan Day, where we'll get another Shells practice Saturday morning at the Joe Kraft Football Training Facility. I liked Hamden's quote where he said the margins are tight. Things are competitive, particularly at the wide receiver room, where he said, we've got some guys with some really top-end talent, but have struggled to be consistent, and some other guys know how to do their job. So it's like, oh, okay, this is a nice little spicy way to start things. Is that I know a lot of people will be watching that on Saturday. What position is cornerback 2? What's the one that is going to be the kind of position group that Adam Luckett's paying the closest attention to throughout the next month when we're going through fall camp, training camp?
Yeah, open practice, Jansen Dunn alignment. Is he at cornerback or is he just locked in at nickel? Who else is playing true nickel for them? That's something I'll be nose, who's kind of lining up at nose with the ones and the twos when they're in base. I think, Nick, quietly, I think left guard's really interesting. I think Jalen Farmer's kind of locked up that right guard position. In spring, Eric Wolford recruited him at Kentucky, at Alabama, and then at Kentucky again. And so, I think he's probably going to start, but like, Jagger Burton, like it's been rocky for him. And then you've got Dylan Ray and Ben Christman. Like Ben Christman is a guy I think people have forgotten about,
Yeah.
but that guy's like 6'6", 325 pounds. And when you talk about like we want to be downhill road graders in the run game, like that looks like a guy like, oh, well, maybe he should be involved. So that's one I'm going to watch is kind of that guard position, that left guard position where that's kind of shaking out. And those were, and then the cornerback obviously with where's JQ Hardaway at, where's DJ Waller at? I mean, I'm assuming they're going to start Waller with the twos, but that feels like a thing where by the time the game start, he's going to be, they brought him to start, so he's going to be a starter by the time the game starts. So just seeing what he looks like. So those are the positions. And then where I think another one, Christian Story, where he's kind of at in the safety pecking order there. Like I would assume he's going to be like the third or fourth safety, probably the 2 safety with Ty Bryant to start off. But how quickly are they maybe trying to get him in with the ones? Which is not something we probably will find out until the game start. But
right, and maybe even not until the second game.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of moving parts. I like that the coaches have challenged them like that. It's got me kind of fired up. I'm hoping I will be out there to see all the action. I'm supposed to have a child on Friday. I don't know if it's who knows. What do you do? Is it going to show up tomorrow? Is it going to show up for a week from tomorrow? You don't know. So I would like to be there to see all the action. UK Football Media Day is always a lot of fun as well. I'm sure, like talking to the backup quarterback isn't the sexiest thing, but Gavin Wimsatt is kind of fascinating, especially just how he left high school early to go to Rutgers. He got the chance to start, and that didn't kind of go according to plan. So, I'm fascinated to know where his head is at going into this whole thing. I do like the overall. I don't think that it is imperative to just completely ignore all of the coach speak when it comes to leadership talk this preseason. Like,
yes, especially how they ended the regular season.
Yeah, and I get really between Brock and Chip and Pop, like those 3 guys, it's hard to lean on your transfers to be leaders, but I get the right vibes from those guys, and that's
bigger programs too.
Yeah, like they have the way they go about their business, and I'm trying to find creative ways to just not say the cliches, but Brock has a good head on his shoulders. He seems to genuinely care about all of his teammates. Like he's very congenial with them all. Like it's not very cliquey. Like the self-discipline that Chip Trainum has is inspiring in many ways. Like just like the discipline of his food, the way he treats his body, the way that he has a very workmanlike approach. And I think that that's the kind of stuff that, like, you could say the same thing about Pop too, where like that sort of stuff is very infectious. And I know that we're going to get a lot of that talk, and it's going to be easy to go one ear and out the other throughout training camp. But I think that's incredibly important to the makeup of this team, because that's the kind of stuff that really makes a difference in these one-score games when you're playing in a very thin margin of error. So it might get a little boring for us and for the consumers of Kentucky football content out there, but I do think that's a very valuable part of what's going to happen over the next month that leads into the season.
Yeah, and I think Jacquez Jones came over and was kind of like a vocal leader pretty fast for the defense.
Mm-hmm.
I think Pop Dooms Johnson is probably a better version of that. I think he's probably a better player, and I think that's what he's going to bring. And I don't think that's necessarily a strength for De'Aaron Jackson. Getting out
he struggles with it, right?
Vocal leader, but I think it could be for Pop Dooms Johnson. So I like how that matches up. I think again, like I talked to those Georgia guys in Dallas, and Malachi Starks and Michael Williams both lit up when the name Brock Vandagriff came out of my mouth. Even before I asked the question, you could see their eyes light up. Like that was their dude. That was their guy. I think there's something to that, because quarterback that's a lot of things, but you have to you've got everyone on the team's got to like you, and it takes a unique personality type to kind of pull that off, because offensive linemen are different than cornerbacks, right? Just in their personalities typically. I mean, every room is kind of different, and you gotta be able to have the offensive linemen have got to be willing to like be your kind of big brothers and just absolutely like no one messes with you, right? But you also got to be like to the receivers, hey, I'm going to get you the ball, and there's going to be some whining and complaining back and forth. It's like, being able to almost like politic there and that, and then defensively, I think you got to have to earn their respect in practice with how you go about your business and how you operate, and that you're not just going to be this, for lack of a better term, like a chicken back there, not going to be like a real football player. So there's all these things, and then there's a bunch of stuff I think the coaches put on you. So it's a hard position to play, and that's on top of before even getting into like what you need to do to be able to play it. So, but I think Brock has some of those quality, some of those leadership qualities you can see, and I think we're starting to see that leak out now. He's still got to go out and play and prove it, but those kind of, I guess, intangibles, like I think he checks those off in a big way. And if he has a good time at Kentucky, or has a good career at Kentucky, I would almost be willing to bet, Nick, come draft time, that's what they're going to be talking about with him. Like, that's going to be one of the first things they talk off is like his intangibles, his leadership, his toughness. And we've already seen that kind of leak out. That is there, it seems like, in spades. And so we have to see, now we got to see if the guy could play or not. But that aspect of it is important. And then, Nick, last year, Liam Cohen and Vince Marrow both came out and said the leadership stunk on the team. And I think that was specifically the offense. I think that was specifically offense. And so they got to fix that. And I think Brock Vandergriff is going to have a big role in attempting to fix that.
Oh, I muted myself for a moment. My apologies. I'm looking forward to it. I do realize I just made a big goof, though, because Agatha Trunchbull, I realize in the chat, it's Miss Trunchbull from Matilda. Like, how did I not put two and two together there? Miss Trunchbull, all-time bad guy, but good guy, 11 personnel, viewer, listener, chatter. So shout out to Miss Trunchbull. Great movie. I never read the book, though. What's Luckett's favorite Roald Dahl book?
Favorite what?
Roald Dahl.
Sports Illustrated for kids.
No, he wrote like the James and the Giant Peach. He wrote The Witches.
I know James and the Giant Peach, but that's about it. You're talking to a kid who was just watching Sports Center when he was like 5 years old. So.
You never read any of the Dahl books? Those were great. He did.
Never read BFG.
He did Willy Wonka.
They made
Chocolate Factory.
They made BFG, and I had no idea what that was when that movie came out.
I thought the F stood for something different in BFG.
Yeah. I was like, what's going on here? Why is this movie rated PG?
Those books were great too, because they were only like 120 pages or 150 pages, and did you all have Accelerated Reader, AR?
We did.
You could burn and turn through some Roald Dahl books back in the day. So I was a big fan of that guy. But Miss Trunchbull, you're the best, but also maybe don't be so mean. Don't make Brucey eat all the cake. We anytime a kid in our house like eats food, like just face down, it's go get him, Brucey. You can do it.
Yeah. Taylor's a big fan of Matilda, and I've seen Matilda a handful of times. Who hasn't seen Willy Wonka? Chocolate Factory.
Which, by the way,
I've seen the movies.
The new one with Timothée Chalamet, it's like a prequel. It's actually good.
Yes.
It's actually really good. I was a big fan. Johnny Depp, creepy. Timothée Chalamet's very good. And that's a great way to put a bow on this show. We got some TBT basketball to watch. Hopefully La Familia kicks the Ville's ass. It's been a pleasure. We'll have plenty more coverage. I don't know if I'll be around for it or not. We'll wait and see how it goes. But Media Day on Friday, Fan Day on Saturday, a lot of coverage coming to you as Kentucky football season kicks off this weekend. For Adam Luckett, I'm Nick Roush. Go Cats and go Kroger.